stars had dimmed, one by one, until only a handful still flickered in the ink-black sky. Humanity, scattered across the remnants of once thriving solar systems, had long abandoned hope for new worlds. The sun, Sol, humanity's ancestral home and last true source of power, was in its final stages, a red giant swollen with fury and fading heat. Around it, like a crown of godlike ambition, floated the last functional Dyson Sphere. It wasn't the first. Other civilizations, drunk on the dream of endless energy, had tried to build their own. Some failed in construction. Others collapsed under their own complexity or were torn apart by war. This one, the halo of Sol, had survived through fortune and blood. It orbited the dying star like a fortress, absorbing what little energy remained and converting it into power for the colonies still clinging to existence on the fringes of the system. Control of the sphere meant survival. 100 factions had risen around it, and 10 times as many had died trying to take it. Corporations turned kingdoms, cults that worshipped the sun's embers, remnants of Earth's last nations, each with their armies, each with their secrets. And yet none had breached its defenses. The sphere had been built by the ancient coalition of engineers, a pan-human alliance now extinct, their knowledge lost or hidden. No one knew how to turn it off, and no one could get inside. Except for one ship. It was called the Whisper, a name ironic in retrospect. It had once been a scout vessel, built not for war but for speed, stealth, and silence. But somewhere in its bones, beneath layers of outdated hull plating and forgotten circuits, lay a signature code, a handshake with the sphere. The ship had once docked with it, decades ago, during the sphere's construction. The coalition had given it access before locking down the entire system. No one knew about it, except for Kale. Kale was not a warrior. He'd been a courier, a pilot for hire running small jobs between mining outposts and trade moons, never staying in one place long enough to form attachments or enemies. The universe was too broken for allegiance, or so he'd believed. The ship came to him through an inheritance. His uncle, Jorn, a mysterious figure who'd disappeared years ago. No one knew what had happened to him. The legal chain was hazy, the inheritance wrapped in deadlocks and encryption. But eventually Kale found himself aboard a decrepit hangar orbiting Ceres, staring at the sleek, oblong shape of the Whisper. It didn't respond at first, but when his hand touched the control panel, the ship hummed to life. That hum changed everything. The factions heard the echo. They knew something had shifted. Spy networks across the belt lit up with chatter. The sphere's defense grid, long silent, blinked for the first time in decades. Just a flicker, a pulse of recognition, as if the ancient machine had opened one eye. Kale didn't want to be a key. He tried to run. But no one escapes gravity forever, and the sphere's pull was stronger than mass. Representatives came. First the Solus Directorate, a remnant of Earth's once proud lunar alliance, promising sanctuary and citizenship. Then the Crimson Ashes, a cult who'd fused sun worship with entropy, speaking of rebirth through fire. Even the Eclipses combined came, the AI-bred humans who saw the sphere as a machine god. Each had plans for him, for the Whisper, for what came next. He refused them all. But refusal wasn't a shield. On a nameless rock near Saturn's edge, mercenaries came in the night. He barely escaped. The rock glassed behind him. On a mining rig over Mercury, poison nearly took him. At Europa, drones disguised as dockhands tried to gut the ship and take its core. It was relentless. Kale had become a symbol, a chess piece none could allow to remain neutral. But Kale wasn't made for war. He'd watched friends die in the periphery conflicts. He'd seen outposts collapse because two factions refused to share water. He'd seen children born underground because the surface was too irradiated. His parents had died trying to build a better route between Mars and the asteroid belt. Idealists, dead ones. He didn't want a cause. He wanted silence. And yet the sphere sang to him. He didn't understand why at first. Not until he flew close, closer than any living human had in generations. The defenses let him pass. A slot opened in its seamless black shell. For a moment, Kale was inside history, inside something vast and unknowable. The ship knew where to go. The whisper systems lit up with ghost code, fragments of old maps and languages no longer spoken. A voice spoke in the silence, calm, clear, synthetic. Welcome, authorized pilot. The sphere had a mind, not an AI in the way the Combine made them. Something older, simpler, caretaker. It showed him archives of the coalition, of how they'd built the sphere not just as an energy source but as a failsafe, a last shelter, a refuge for knowledge, for species, for life. It had enough power to last 1,000 more years. Enough for the fragments of humanity to survive until the next star. But only if controlled, only if undisturbed. Each faction, Kale realized, would strip it bare, turn it into a throne or a weapon. The Crimson Ashes would use its solar conduits to ignite new wars. The Directorate would ration its light like a god's judgment. The Combine would merge it with machine thought, erasing the remnants of humanity's soul. Kale sat in the sphere's command chamber for hours. The walls were smooth, humming with power. The stars spun slowly beyond. A choice hung in the air. He could hand it to one of them. Choose the least monstrous of the devils. Perhaps the Directorate with their ordered brutality. Maybe they could manage it long enough for the colonies to stabilize. Maybe that was enough. Or he could destroy it. There was a sequence buried deep in the sphere's logic. A self-destruct designed to prevent capture. The coalition had built it as a last resort. It would take time to activate. He could escape. Or not. He stood at the edge of decision. When he left the sphere, the factions were waiting. Their fleets blotted out the stars, silver crescents of warships. Freighters turned into siege platforms. Living ships grown in vats. They hailed him in every language. Offers. Threats. Please. Kale opened a wideband channel. I've seen what's inside, he said, his voice amplified across the void. And I won't let any of you have it. They laughed. Some screamed. Some begged. He spoke one final sentence. If survival comes at the cost of our soul, then maybe we don't deserve to survive. And then he vanished. For days no one could find him. The sphere closed again. The systems fell silent. Then the tremors began. The sphere didn't explode. It unfolded. The outer layers broke away, falling toward the sun in ribbons of steel and light. Inner shells collapsed inward. Beams that once carried solar energy arced with fire and shattered. A wave of raw power surged out across the system, shorting NAVSATs, frying engines, disrupting everything. And then the sun went quiet. The fleets scattered, blind and burning. On Earth's ruins, night fell for the final time. The factions collapsed into infighting. The last bastion of power was gone. But somewhere, far from the dying star, a ship moved silently. The Whisper. Kale had survived. He had triggered a controlled implosion, collapsing the sphere's outer layers while preserving its core, sending it drifting outward, away from Sol, away from the wars. Carried with it the archives, the AI caretaker, the seeds of life. He had set it free. A new arc, drifting into the unknown. Humanity had a second chance. But it would have to find it, follow it, earn it. And Kale would make sure the monsters didn't catch up.